What's happening, Cigars Daily Nation? Before I kick this video off, I want to start by asking for your comments. This is the second video I've done in the last 2 weeks about what's going on in the larger world of cigar regulation. So my question is, will you comment and tell me if this is the kind of content you want to see? I have always taken the posture on this channel that I'm a guy who is an aficionado and loved premium cigars that happen in the industry. So this channel is me bringing you along in my journey, learning everything about cigar making, the cigar industry and how it operates, the best of the blends in the world, and cigar culture. And this regulatory part of it is something that fascinates me. But the ultimate question that I always am asking is, does it also fascinate you too? So I'll ask you to drop your comment down below. Is this stuff helpful? Is it useful? Do you like it? Is it engaging? Is it entertaining? Want to hear from you guys about this. I think it's important because it ultimately has to do with what's going to happen with our rights and freedoms. And I assume that's something that you guys want to hear about as well. Maybe some of you enjoy cigars. You don't really care about it. Put that down below too, because I really do want to hear from all you guys. And now, with no further ado, on with the video. Hey everybody, I'm Tim, and this one's getting legally spicy. And you're watching Cigars Daily. Hey, get more out of this video when you join the community on Cigars Daily Plus. And today for this video, I am jamming on the American Viking Cigars Liga Zebra, a Connecticut and Maduro barber pole blend with a lot of flavor, and the only cigar I honestly felt comfortable putting in this video because I'm pretty sure my cigar making friends might get a little iffy if I put their cigar in the video, where we're talking about the FDA getting stomped into submission in a court hearing, and that is exactly the topic of this one. So I'm talking about some American Viking because that's a brand over which I got a lot more to say. And oh boy, this is getting crazy. So I want to take you today through what's going on with your cigar smoking rights and freedoms, because ultimately it's one of the things that is a core value for the Cigars Daily Nation. We like that we enjoy premium cigar flavors, brand new blends, and some of the best stuff on earth. At the same time, we watch out for unfair regulation where it pops up. It should all be fair, and regulation, when it's done, should be done in a way that benefits people and isn't, as they call it, I think the words that the judge used were arbitrary and capricious. Probably something I'll get tattooed at some point on my body. But I want to give you a rundown on this, especially if you're just getting into cigars, sort of the landscape and what's happened. And if you watched, I very recently put out a video where I talked about Cigar Rights of America and a bill that is out right now to actually exempt premium cigars totally from the FDA's regulation. But I'm going to give you a snapshot of this, and this will bring you to sort of the current legal battle that's going on, and I can take you through it. Today, I am going to be sharing with you an article that I found on Cigar Aficionado about some opening arguments in the FDA's appeal on this very court case that I'm going to explain to you. But what's happened in the past is, over the last decade, the FDA has taken huge measures to try to regulate the world of premium cigars. They consider it their responsibility to regulate all tobacco products. The issue that they've run into is that regulation has to be gone about in a certain way. Cutting corners and skipping steps in instituting new regulations is not only bad, it is, and what's my favorite words again? Oh yeah, arbitrary and capricious. And judges don't like those types of things. As the FDA sought to put some regulations onto premium cigars that were, dare I say, even a little bit overreaching, a little bit overstepping. People have accused them of that before. That's when a Judge Mehta, actually an Obama-appointed judge in a court of appeals, came down and said, no, FDA, you cannot regulate premium cigars in this way. I'm sorry, you're going to have to go back to the drawing board. And that sort of brings us to where we are right now. In the past, some of their regulations have included things like colossal warning labels on premium cigar boxes and a pre-market approval process, which would have deleted basically everything that came out after February of 2007, which today is most things. And so that's what we've been spared from. Today, cigar makers freely create new blends for the world of premium cigars, which in my last video about resolution HJ Res 99, I talked about the fact that only 1% of American adults smoke premium cigars, and premium cigars only even constitute 1% of the actual cigars sold in America every year. So overreaching regulations don't make a ton of sense. Now, this one right here is a little different. Because after the FDA kind of got their wrists slapped a little bit by the judge, they have to go back to the drawing board. Now they're filing an appeal to be saying, no, we should absolutely have the right to regulate this industry. Even though the cigar industry presents itself as a family-owned and operated industry for the most part, the FDA still wants to present us as highly dangerous, very terrible organizations that present a large public safety danger. Now, in this article right here, and I will recommend that you go read this in its entirety. First of all, one thing you should never do online is read a headline and take it as the gospel. And number two, never take somebody's commentary about an article and take that as the gospel either. Read the thing for yourself. This is something right here I'm going to tell you a little bit about. As you can see, I highlighted a fair amount of it, so I'm going to give you my best intake on this. But if you're a premium cigar lover, I think that this is going to be something you're going to enjoy right along with me. This thing kicks off and says, it seemed to be a good day in court for the cigar industry this morning, or rather a difficult one for the FDA. And again, this is something that I didn't ever expect to hear coming out of the cigar industry. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've always expected this to be a slow march to the gallows for people in the cigar industry because I live in a country where we've been waging war on tobacco for almost 50 years, and it seems like we paint all tobacco with the same brush, regardless of usage patterns or sort of the indicative health patterns of cigar usage. This is something that's been a complete surprise to me. It goes on to say, the organization, meaning the FDA, still hopes to overturn a previous judgment that it voided its authority over the premium cigar industry. The court didn't appear to find much of the FDA's argument compelling. No matter what you think about our government and our system of legislation and our judicial system, there have been some things happening that seem to me surprisingly fair, and this is one of them, especially regardless of whether an issue in someone's mind is good or bad, and there are a lot of hot button issues right now, at the very least, you can appreciate and respect that arguments should be well formed when people are trying to do things like put out brand new regulations. The article here identifies someone called Lindsay Powell, who represents the FDA, found herself struggling to convince judges that premium cigars, despite the low frequency of use, still pose material health risks enough to warrant FDA regulation. So the argument made here by the FDA is that cigars very, very dangerous. And I'll even admit, cigars are not good for you. And I am recorded many times saying this, and will say it many times more. Premium cigars are a risk that every adult needs to consider whether or not they want to include this in their lives. But I also think people should have the freedom to do that. Powell testified, if they're not regulated, people get the message that they're relatively safe. Patterns of use will change. If premium cigars are carved out from regulation, and they're not subject to any of the FDA's authorities, you can then have people handing out free samples and putting them in vending machines. And the federal minimum age of sales rules don't apply. It's a fundamental question about regulation. And this argument right here is a really tough one because effectively what I hear being said in this, and again, I wasn't sitting in the courtroom, I'm reading an article about what was said, but this argument is, if we don't regulate this thing that we haven't been regulating, it's going to be more dangerous than it was when we weren't regulating it. And that sounds to me like a pretty baseless argument. It's a pretty shaky ground to try to stand on, especially when you consider what the sort of burden of proof is on the FDA. The burden of proof on the FDA was to show how premium cigars are so horrifically, wildly dangerous to the population. And the judge goes on to say this. This is someone called Judge Pan, says, it would seem to me that the things that you are saying we should be worried about probably aren't really worrisome. They're not selling premium cigars in a vending machine. They're luxury cigars, and some of these cigars are very expensive. And then the judge dropped the microphone, kicked the mic stand off the stage, and did a crowd surfing dive onto the audience in the courtroom. At least I think that's how premium cigar people are going to receive this. It's a pretty interesting quote, but certainly a direct, I think, this goes on. But certainly a direct confrontation of the fact that statements made didn't really provide the kind of substance that the court was looking for in the FDA's appeal to regulate premium cigars. Now I gotta tell you, one thing I learned about in the world of boxing that is proven true in real life is that if you throw a punch and you miss, you would also better keep your guard up, because the person might come back with a jab of their own, which very much feels like what's about to happen here. The FDA's representative threw a jab. Oh my gosh, it missed. And the judge told her that it missed. However, she didn't keep her guard up, because Powell argued that infrequent use does not negate the danger, and that the risks were properly explained by the FDA and its regulatory proposal. And now we get into a quote. "These are incredibly dangerous products," she insisted. And this is where I mean she sort of left her guard down, because what the judge came back with definitely feels like an unprotected strike. The judge says, quote, "Wasn't that the question you were supposed to answer?" responded Judge Pan, accusing Powell of having a circular argument. Are these dangerous products? This is a question a judge is asking, by the way, not me. Are these dangerous products? Maybe they're not, because of their patterns of use. If based on patterns of use, people use them very, very infrequently, they don't have the same dangers. And that was the whole question that was not been answered. So I don't think that you can rely on that answer to assume that it's true. My goodness. These are the kind of things that, by the way, a judge can say in a courtroom that I would never make a statement about, especially right here on this platform. This is the kind of stuff that seems like common sense logic and answers. And honest to God, the things that maybe we're starting to learn from doing some real research about premium cigars and separating them from the mass market machine-made cigars and even from the rest of the world of tobacco. Truthfully, if there's one thing that I would love to see in this world, it is good, honest, hard look at the effects of what a premium cigar is outside of the rest of the cigar sort of world out there. But now it would be great to know, where do we stand on this? I'm always jabbering on in these videos that this is a risk that people have to consider for themselves and make their own decision about. But to understand that risk, we have to do real research about what this means. And I don't mean research funded by an organization whose whole goal is to regulate an industry basically out of existence, which is what it's been in the past. I mean real research from the perspective of, what can we learn about this and what can we know? As far as all of this goes for the premium cigar industry right now, you've got a lot of people to thank for this. The article mentions some names specifically, but again, I hold up my membership card for Cigar Rights of America. I could probably do them a favor and just punch this out. It's like a lanyard thing. I don't know if I'm supposed to wear this around my neck to let everybody know I'm a member of CRA. It gives me a little business card too to put in my wallet. Might just do that this year. In any case, there are organizations you can thank who are funding the fight for stuff like this. It's the whole reason the FDA's regulations didn't land with earth-shattering consequences for people in the cigar world and for people who enjoy their rights and freedoms. And so you guys can follow this stuff. I'll tell you, the places that I read about it most often are either Half Wheel or Cigar Aficionado. Both of those places have good coverage of what goes on in these cases. But I gotta tell you, it also brings me a lot of joy to be able to share victories with all of you when it comes to the love of premium cigars. I find myself once again feeling hopeful for everything that's coming and my right and ability to exist even on these platforms. And so I'll continue fighting for that, because that's a whole separate battle. But I do want to know from you, what do you think about this fight? Is it unexpected for you? Were you even aware of this? Like, did you even know that we were fighting for our ability to stay alive as cigar loving people in this country? Like our ability and right to enjoy what we do together and sit around in a cigar lounge and bitch about all the problems of the world? This is something that's very real. And so I want to hear from you guys about it down below. Drop your comments and I'll chat with you guys down there. And of course, make sure you check this video out on the community on Cigars Daily Plus. Thank you all so much for watching. This is Tim signing off for Cigars Daily, and I will see you in the comments.